Morning all. Thank you all for attending the IOSH Documentary Showcase exclusive event today. I'm Ruth Lake, I'm Director of Strategic and Commercial Development here at the Institution of Occupational Safety and Health, IOSH, and we're really excited to present this first online viewing of the Tackling Risk in Rural Africa documentaries to you. These projects follow the lives of 4 rural communities in Ghana and Kenya, portraying the instances of chronic workplace harm that they face on a daily basis and how IOSH and our partners are working to support these communities, help mitigate the occupational safety and health risks, and improve their working conditions to ultimately save lives. Within this session, you'll hear from my colleagues here at IOSH, Vanessa Harwood-Whitcher, our Chief Executive, and Alan Stevens, our Head of Strategic Engagement. And we're also delighted to be joined by the Vice President of Commonwealth Businesswomen Africa, Lana Wanjau, and the Lana Empire Africa Foundation founder, Helena Abotiwine, who have been absolutely instrumental within these projects to date and will continue to be. Before we move on to the session, a few housekeeping rules. Please ensure your microphone is muted and, if possible, cameras on throughout the session. We've scheduled time at the end of the session for questions and answers, so please feel free to add your questions or comments in the Q&A section in Zoom at the bottom of the screen rather than in the chat section, or raise your hand within the Q&A session towards the end and we'll invite you to ask your question. We've got a scheduled 5-minute refreshment break in the middle of the session, so please use this in between the films to get up, move around, take a short break. And finally, we are recording the session today. So with all that said, I'll now hand over to Vanessa to provide an overview of IOSH and our strategy Activate 2028. Over to you, Vanessa.
Thank you very much, Ruth. Hello, I'm Vanessa Harwood-Whitcher and I'm the Chief Executive at IOSH. Firstly, for those of you in the audience who don't know IOSH, we are the Institution of Occupational Safety and Health, and we are the chartered body and the largest membership organisation for safety and health professionals across the globe, with more than 50,000 members in over 130 countries. We were established in 1945, and IOSH was also granted the status of an accredited organisation to the Commonwealth in November 2020 for a 5-year period in the category of professional and civil society organisations. This gives IOSH the extraordinary potential to collaborate, influence and enhance in a multilateral system comprising of 56 nations and their various organisations. Our vision is to achieve a safe and healthy world of work. This is our core focus. As the professional body for OSH practitioners, one of the major ways we do that is through our support for and the empowering of those who make up the profession to have the maximum impact in their work. This is realised through our mission that is defined through these 3 actionable statements. It's through building excellence, driving action, and committing to a better future for all that will ensure a safe and healthy world of work. With this, IOSH believes that it should not matter where people work in the world or what they do. People have the right to go home at the end of the day. Sadly, this is not the case for many, especially those who work in emerging economies in the informal sector, who are disproportionately harmed through their work. As part of IOSH's 5-year strategy, Activate 2028, which was launched a year ago, we're building on what we achieved with our last strategy work 2022, but taking it further by bringing to the forefront the role OSH plays in enabling inclusive work environments, where for workers feeling safe and being safe are given equal attention and action, no matter where they are based or what work they do. It's founded on principles and values that help occupational health and safety professionals take a leading role in embedding safe, healthy and sustainable ways of working that are socially just. This has been defined through our strategic objectives. These are our high-end goals for the life of Activate 2028. Each one underpins our charitable object, which as a charity are at the core of everything we do to support our members, working people and businesses all over the world. We need members and the OSH profession to help us achieve our vision and objectives. we will endeavour to continue to support the OSCE profession through our policy and influence, our advice and guidance, and to provide a community to connect professionals all over the world. Through our Activate 2028 journey so far, we're shining a light on the societal benefits of a safer and healthier workplace and healthier working lives. In collaboration with our partners, we've identified a need to support the sheer butter workers and the textile weavers of North Ghana, alongside the fishmonger women of Lake Victoria and the quarry scavenger widows of East Kenya, who are all experiencing chronic workplace harm. These projects in Ghana and Kenya not only directly link to Activate 2028 through our charitable and strategic objectives, but are also priority projects for our government and non-governmental organisation partners. For example, this initiative directly supports our charitable objective 1, as you can see on the screen, and most importantly evidences the supportive public benefit statement of utilising our strategic partnerships to protect lives of workers, supporting their families and strengthening community ecosystems. We are collaborating with these stakeholders to support the workers' rights of a safe and healthy world of work and, through assessing the risks associated with these working practices and making recommendations to the interventions that would enhance the working practices, we are shining the light on new ways of working that will ultimately save lives. These case studies portray the overall process and demonstrate our core purpose and vision at IOSH in line with our charitable objects. This will support our strategy in showcasing globally how we can impact positively the lives of those most desperate. I hope you found, through me explaining who IOSH are and our Activate 2028 strategy, that together with our partners, we are putting words into action and helping the hardest to reach. We'll now play a short video of some children from an orphanage in Kenya who Alan met whilst working in territory, and Alan will add further context to this afterwards and show the Tackling Risk in Rural Africa documentaries.
My name is John Tinyari, and when I grow up, I like to be a businesswoman.
My name is Imani Mutugi. When I grow up, I want to be a deputy president of Kenya.
My name is Pendo Amboy. When I grow, I want to be a pilot.
My name is Margaret Amboy, and when I grow up, I want to be a teacher.
My name is Magdalene Mwende. When I grow up, I like to be a neurosurgeon.
My name is Justus. When I grow up, I want to be a rapper.
My name is Peter Ndongo. When I grow up, I want to be a footballer.
When I grow up, I like to be an electrical engineer.
When I grow up, I want to be an air hostess.
I want to be an engineer.
I want to be a vet.
I like to be a musician.
I like to be an accountant.
I want to be a farmer.
Mechanical engineer.
Policeman. Pilot.
Architect and bishop.
A doctor.
President of India.
When I grow up, I want to be a chef.
Kids are the same across the world. They have ambitions. They have the same dreams. It doesn't matter where you go. Kids would say the same thing if you ask those questions. The difference with these kids, as Vanessa said, is these are orphans. These kids have had disrupted lives so early in their lives. And often these dreams and these smiles that we've seen on the videos are replaced by vacant stares when you see kids that realise that their lives are collapsing because of something that's happened. And you know, you see these kids, they're orphans predominantly because of workplace harm. And it's the same across the world. We know that kids underperform in terms of achieving their ambitions if mum and dad get hurt or get sick at work. It's especially pronounced in teenage girls in Africa whose education is acutely harmed when something happens to mum and dad. Thankfully, the kids that you've seen on the video today are being cared for at the Umbrella Orphanage just outside Nairobi. Their education and their well-being and their accommodation, food, everything is funded by a few of us as individuals. And we'll share the web link later in the chat should you wish to learn more about the orphanage. But the point here is our work as IOSH professionals and our great partners here on the call. We're not only saving lives, but we're making lives. The future of these children is dependent upon us keeping mum and dad safe at work and stopping these further kids becoming orphans in the future. So as Vanessa said, we're going to take you deeply into 2 geographic areas where we've been working to try and make that a reality, because it doesn't matter where you live, what you do, people should go home safe and healthy at the end of the day, every day. As Vanessa said, we've got 50,000 members who work tirelessly all day to avoid workplace harm. We can't fix the world alone, but just because we can't help everyone doesn't mean that we shouldn't help those that we can. So why Ubuntu as the title? Where across Africa, the value system that makes Africa unique is a system of closely connected relationships and dependencies across communities. I'm only okay if you are okay, and vice versa. This is why our African members do so much for their communities, who recognise that nobody should be left behind. We've identified 2 rapidly evolving countries with determined, excellent, progressive governments doing great work in both Ghana and in Kenya. And as Vanessa said, we've worked with the governments, key partners and local IOSH members on the ground to identify workers who are the hardest to reach. And I mean the hardest to reach, because what we want to do is demonstrate that a safe and healthy world of work is for everybody, regardless of where you live and what you do. So firstly, we're going to take you to the Upper East in Ghana. So you can picture Ghana as a very long, thin country. The nearest airport to the north is 4 hours drive away from the communities that we found in the Upper East. They produce amazing produce, both in the textile sector and the agriculture sector. Firstly, we'll look at the shea butter, which is in huge demand across the world, yet very little of the value comes to the women that produce it in this area. And then we'll look at the woven fabrics. Again, African woven fabrics is right in the sweet spot of world fashion at the moment. They produce the finest fabrics. Yet again, what comes to them in terms of rewards? The following 2 films will give insight into their world, their challenges, and what we're doing to help transform their lives. So firstly, we'll take you to the Upper East and look at the shea butter manufacturers up there. So let's sit back, relax, and enjoy the first documentary. Thank you.
Behind the shea butter are people who are working day in, day out. Don't even think about their own health, just focusing on the product they need to get out to be able to feed their families. My name is Helena Abotiwine. I was born here in this village. I spent all my life till I was 17. I learned basically everything in this village.
Hello?
Hello? Hi.
Ma.
Yeah,
Tibola Sorisana.
Nothing.
بيهراتي وأنا يا
Shea butter is one of the main source of income for them.
Oh, يا زان أيوة كم بقولها
I remember my mom always washing and cracking the nut. I was kind of jealous of the shea butter. They were getting more of hair attention than I do.
My name is Dr. David Aku. I'm a medical doctor. I'm an occupational medicine specialist as well as a physician specialist. I'm triple chartered, chartered in health and safety, chartered in quality management, chartered in environmental management. The shea butter production in the Upper East region is done mostly by women. If I can say from what we saw, it's done only by women. These are women who are working under harsh conditions, making very little money. Every step of the production of shea butter had so many risks.
This is a lot of Tom Kankan. Two stars here, or the Tommy, the Borbana, one to me. Dick no pale. The Borbana, the one to as Dick Puglative, so on the Etanala, Borbana, me. So one hour, son is good. You will meet me Kankan. Alice at a Mercunu that can it answer.
I see. We see Malaba Hanka quick. This scene over Tivigme. Catan Vera. The Banka Coy at La Facme. I see no banner. Banner called Donna. Zoom let down on little Dugna Laraman.
These women are not aware of the fact that they are at risk. They know these things happen, but they have been normalized. So they're like, people get bitten by snakes and die. People break their bones. It's become so normalized that they're not alarmed by it.
They're constantly working. No break for them. They are lifting heavy stuffs, using rocks to crack nuts. Some of them, they can't sleep after work. They constantly take painkiller. They have to, so they will be able to sleep and wake up the next day.
Sit me. Going to a mare to do all the two because I'm born on. The go in the big one. I've seen the cantain. To poor payment. The thing a lot bummer to Tomalaya or Senatolaning.
In health and safety, we have a hierarchy of control, the highest of which is elimination. We don't want to treat the effect, we want to stop it from happening in the first place. So we're trying to get these women to work in a way where they don't have to get injured, where they don't have to get sick, so that they can make more of the shea butter, they can learn how to make the shea butter more profitable.
Aye, like a zoo. They talk to Wang Lawan. To money, hunted that bonable, they Tibata Dara. But you will like a zoo. They live Satima Hamwada, near your way, Salafine. They had their color, the Lansara, but you will like a zoo. Won't like him one, the Catari. The Hangura Lala and Fee, the Catan Ton, the little name. When I have sung, the way in Zia. A surely men in bottle, that is Zabby in it. Lower Anna in bomb. They tell me you sing Tangle Zuka. They can be. They see a lack of wood. To my make a tala or easy a zembo in ita la te le de obe la kala wona tibala buna kala wona to e masindu la me itla ti nyela kala dona.
I'm Vanessa Harwood-Whitcher. I'm Chief Executive of IOSH, the Institution of Occupational Safety and Health.
I'm Alan Stevens, Head of Strategic Engagements at the Institution of Occupational Safety and Health. My role is to build bridges and collaborations between our collaborative partners.
1 minute we will be working with people at a global level, so people like the United Nations, the World Health Organization, the International Labour Organization.
All the way down through an asteroid belt of national leaders and local institutions, working down to delivering high impact projects on the ground.
So we understand that global picture and the complexity of that, but we actually bring boots to the ground.
We believe that if we can help the hardest to reach, and these people in Ghana are the hardest to reach, then we're demonstrating that our vision of a safe and healthy world of work for all is not just words.
My name is Bernd Reichel. I'm the Senior Prevention Specialist at the International Social Security Association, ISA. We work with other organizations who can actually channel the programs and the strategies that we develop and bring it to the shop floor. So we work with the ILO, we also work with IOSH.
At one level at IOSH we have world-class policy team working alongside yourselves and the ILO to set the direction, but equally then it's going down to the communities and making sure no one gets left behind.
Of course, here at ISA, this is like the policy level. People at the policy level can also have an impact. At far-fetched places somewhere in Africa, in Asia, it touches lives, it touches people.
The current reality of these workers is on a good day, on a good week and a good month, they're just about managing to survive. One slight knock and they move below that line to the point where it's very difficult for them to come back.
The sad thing is that these women get injured whilst making a living and then have chronic pain and become disabled and then can't make a living. And therefore, the community is circling around poverty because they can't progress.
If we are able to identify these women and group them into cooperatives, to instill into them some of the formal ways of doing things, and then through that you are able to identify them, reach out to them, and provide the services that they need.
The name of the foundation is Lana Foundation, and the Lana in our language means come together. I want to bring women together. I want to bring them together to work in a professional way.
So that's the first video focusing on the shea butter workers. I hope that worked in terms of setting the scene and the context of the working conditions for these beautiful people. One thing I've noticed since working with the shea butter workers is just how so many products, cosmetics through to food, cooking oils and things. In Europe, in the UK, contain shea butter. It's a expensive and highly in-demand product that you can see now where it originates from. We'll talk about that more in a while, but if we move on now to the second of the documentaries, where we look at the same community, where if they're not making shea butter, the girls, the ladies are weaving what they call African prints, these highly in demand, highly specialized, beautiful fabrics. So sit back again, and we hope you enjoy the second of the documentaries. Thank you.
There's a real excitement about the beauty of this product. The hand-woven, high-quality garments are becoming really of a great interest to the international fashion industry. And that significantly shifts the dial on the price point over time. So if we can keep people safe whilst our partners are moving the international market and demand for the product, then this is a really interesting journey, I think, for the next few years these girls are going to be on.
My name is Duncan Spencer. I am the head of advice and practice here at IOSH, and I was involved in setting up the risk assessment questions and finalising the report.
There's lots of processes there that we've identified where we know where harm's occurring, we know why it's occurring, and we know how to fix it.
The machines that are used are called the weaving mill and then the loom. These are made out of metal poles that have been welded together. And unfortunately, because these are welded in a crude fashion, these women frequently cut their fingers, cut their hands, with the risk of tetanus as well.
Ergonomics is an issue as well, because the design of these equipments that they're using, for example, the treadles that are on the weaving mills, because they're very thin bars, then they can create problems with the feet, because they can deform the feet.
It's a very manual process. It's often done by younger girls, and it's just really hard work.
The women have to sit down for long hours, so they get a lot of musculoskeletal issues. It's a lot of women having a lot of back problems, back pain, without access to any healthcare to help them.
They're out in 30-degree plus heat every day, and just to move the loom 2 or 3 times with your feet, you realise just how hard that is. And these girls are doing this all day, every day.
They have to work very long hours with very few work breaks in between. So in the repetitive nature of what they're doing, you know, this can be quite a testing environment for any individual to work in.
Tuma, wow. Lawan, rasoma. Ede minga. Tuma zen.
Ede kan. Ume awane.
La
soma kan.
Ede fine. Tona tia tona be minga de kankang bora ya.
Sawan de kankang de te masin sumur ka wora. La tin na ma wati tin ne ra wana ta la ditim. Ro ba te tin na fara ne. De me mo de bana ba me ke bora ni ngara. Mo de ton. Saate ko ba tara ga de ti la tanga te kwasna la. Sa han sana. Te tin jo bala wi han kalle. E ke sala mo ba. Dina ba. Sala me han sa aguna ba kan yan ko bu yi po man ti kalle ta ne ba te la da lokla
wakala za wa ti an po hoy to vilingo wa wa ki wana za wa ba wo ka ba ala be me ya be me ngatla la dana pa pour ko honu be honna ma be me ngane dana ya pa
honu wa dana me ya le ko pour na ma kin dan ko na ma la idon lahan tra ida mitla en walo kan yang tanto ko lahan ton nde ko meda wala
yambe wa yama gingili ko yere ne ba balle ngortam
marash mala apprentice le malan mala te pa pin
so bahamme factual bahamme hina boya ti yama ner pinu la za abonemi la kan wora ti ya ta machines tara machine de ma songria ti ya wora ti yama ner ba pinu la bonemi ko bako ya yang wo tama bale ambe wala la han wa ligre po ambe wa ya yen la zo be ya to yen enefi
bompi na hala la ta yen la hala zo
bala lo bahati ya vo ana songam bo kala ya yen la hala zo la wo yang bahati la ana ya la wana if ya hanya ta la hala zo
la ana song
tona
la ana song ta ta chong da ton e tona yan tola ninga song.
The thing that struck me most, there are some really simple controls that you can put in place that will not only mitigate the risk, but also will increase productivity.
They can't increase their productivity and their wealth through doing things harder than they already are, because these people work from dawn to dusk every day. If we can help them scale up and sell their products in more volume or at a different price point by where they sit in the value chain, then these girls' lives are going to be changed forever.
These are young women who have such great potential, but you see them having to endure hardship from day to day. They need a market for their textiles. These textiles are beautiful, but they are so removed from a typical market where people would buy this that they are not getting the market to do so. Should they be given the opportunity, this community can really thrive.
Can you recognize some of these?
Oh, a lot of them.
So they make textiles like these?
Yes. No, ours is unique.
It's a bit unique.
Yes, it's a bit unique.
You can show me when you see yours.
Yeah, absolutely. I can.
Maybe here?
Yeah, that is one of them.
Oh.
So.
Hello.
How are you?
What about
Good.
you?
Very well. Very well. So we're looking at this small type of shirts, right?
Yeah, the Batakan.
Yeah. Are you from the north?
Yes, I'm from the Upper East region.
Okay. Where?
I'm from Bongo Field.
Oh, okay. Why? Mom is Bila. La Anwane.
You speak the language.
Yeah, apparently his village is not far from mine, right? Yeah, so you see, I told you, we always identify each other. How do you get them to Accra?
Because my sisters weave.
Your sisters do the weaving.
Yeah, they do the weaving at the village, then we bring it here to sell.
How's the market here? Do a lot of people buy?
Yeah, people buy, especially this one.
The smoke,
like this.
okay.
It's something original.
Yeah.
It's not machine made, it's hand weaving. So like those who know much about culture, they like it. And if you want to wear something to represent Ghana, you know, the smoke is biologically made from Ghana.
Yeah.
And I have more inside.
This is really original. Like I told you, it's hand weaving.
So you can tell.
It's weaving with passion. So you can tell from how the texture is.
Very nice design.
Yeah. So the colors, you have different colors.
I have more variety. This one is only the top for me.
Oh.
Okay.
Nice.
So are you making a lot of money from this here in the
Actually,
market?
I don't have any work apart from selling this.
Okay.
So I can say it helps me.
It helps you to live here.
Okay, you survive on that with your family, right?
Yes.
And then you support your sister back in the village with her
And the
weaving.
family. But when you make it, you have to make profit.
Yeah.
So what I would like is if people patronize more on this, it will help the community, not only me and my family.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, people here.
The demand for their product is there already. It's how that product is made and the volume of that is the thing that needs to be addressed. That movement from just about managing to moving forwards, it's such small numbers. This is the crazy thing. It's tiny numbers. It's not millions of pounds. It's not big numbers. It's tiny, tiny gains.
If we can engage in ways with partners who can reach them and can make those kinds of investments, then we can demonstrate how occupational safety and health can actually improve prosperity as well as improve the working conditions and the livelihoods of individuals.
For organizations such as the UN or the International Labour Organization, upon hearing about the plight of this woman, will find that aligns with their goals and hopefully provide such funding that is needed. And then IOSH, with its experts, would lead the implementation of these control measures and ensure that they're done well.
We already saw how many of the issues in these industries, they have to do with the lack of equipment, with the lack of mechanization, so with the lack of productivity, because it's back-breaking work. Our philosophy, our belief is better working conditions, a happier workforce that works in a safe environment where there are not accidents, where there is no chronic disease. That workforce is much more productive. And this is why this collaboration is so critical, because it takes the ideals into something real.
The ILO office in Ghana is amazing. Their commitment to the weavers and the textile industry in Ghana is a real priority project for them.
Textile, we thought, is firstly a priority sector for the government, and that for us was very important and will align with national strategies.
They have tremendous power to influence the global direction, or what they need from us is local implementation. They see IOSH as their implementation army, our 50,000 members across the world.
We are always in the lookout for good implementing partners, because I think ILO has also a lot of technical expertise in terms of UBUNTU, but we are not an implementing agency. However, IOSH is.
IOSH, I believe, should be at the forefront of driving this change, but we will need funding.
So Emily, it's been a great few months working with the textile weavers in the Upper East. The risk assessment was a tremendous success. I mean, you arranged it. So the main messages that came out of the risk assessment were what?
First of all, better working conditions. Because several risks were identified. They need better value generated from their products. I mean, those are very good fabrics, and we need to tell this story better to put the women in a better light for more support. The women, they take care of the home. They're taking care of their daughters. They're setting example to all the other girls out there.
Because what I see is the weavers, they're just about managing. And as a consequence, if things go wrong, there's no capacity to come back. Impacts on their kids staying in school, and this work with the textile weavers is a great example of the difference we can make. We've worked on building such strong partners here. The local ILO office is really keen to support.
I'm quite happy that the ILO has bought into this work, and they believe that we can work together, especially with IOSH and the volunteers and members locally, to change the face of OSH in Ghana.
You're right, because look, you know what we believe in. We believe in a safe and healthy world of work, and it shouldn't matter where you live. You have the right to go home safe and healthy at the end of the day. And
now it's a fundamental principle at work, so everybody has a right to a healthy and safe working condition.
And that's what we're doing at so many levels. The work we're doing in Geneva and New York with the UN, and right down to that individual micro farmer or weaver, it makes you feel really proud about what we've done, and I think we really are making a difference, thanks to you.
It's easy to have an idea, but it's better if someone buys into that idea, into that vision, and rallies all the support and make it come to pass.
I hope you enjoyed them as much as I do. Doesn't matter how many times I watch those documentaries, it still fills my mind and heart with pride, and also a degree of responsibility, because these ladies need a lot of help. To talk about that, before we move over to Kenya, I'd like to introduce live on screen the real superhero of this morning, which is Helena Abotiwine from Ghana, who's been the inspiration for the start of this work. So, Helena, hi, good to see you this morning. I have a few questions for you, please, on behalf of our audience this morning. Perhaps start with, tell me, Helena, given your challenges of getting these communities from the Upper East noticed by the world, what was the reaction when we first arrived on the ground to help the communities? How did they take it?
Good morning, everyone. Well, when we first arrived in the Upper East region, they all believed they thought they everyone has left them, and there's no way of, someone contacting the community or visiting the community again. But when they finally, when I told them we were coming, they didn't believe it at first, but when you showed up, it was like you brought back the belief, the hope that someone has seen them and actually heard their plea. So they were really excited. And for them, it has always been like so many people come to the north, but they stop at Tamale as far as the flight can take them to. But no one is willing to dive into the 4 hour after the airport in Tamale to see what they are actually going through or to try to help them. And the few that have visited actually don't come back. They go and then not return. So they were really excited and really happy about it.
Thank you, Helena. So since I've been, I know that obviously Africans have nicknames and things like that. I mean, it's quite funny how you get adopted into the community. When I come now, I feel part of that community. How would you describe that?
Well, at the moment, they've seen you as part of the community and part of them. And even though they don't know all the members of IOSH, but they actually feels they are part of IOSH and IOSH is part of the community, which resulted to them giving you a name, which is Awimboma, but the Accra, they call you Kofilate. But the Awimboma simply means you are sent from God, and they are actually looking forward and hoping that this time around, you will not go and do not come back like the rest have done to them, and you actually be a part of them, and IOSH will be a part of this community and in the lives of the women.
Thank you. So when we filmed these documentaries, that was at the back end of last year. Tell me what you've been busy, and we've been busy supporting the groups. Tell everybody what's happened since we filmed amongst the community.
Well, after the documentaries and when the documentaries were finally released, we've been working, and then we've moved these women from the informal sector to the formal economy. Hence, we've registered the foundation and acquired the legal documents that will enable us to export and sell in the country as well. We've also shipped our first order, which to the UK and to East Africa, where we are working closely with Lana, where the fabrics, which I have one here, we use it for the bags, which are the tote bags, and then the shea butter, where we shipped, and we have some in our containers just to show you. And with that being seen by many people, they've actually expressed their desire to help, which we've submitted proposals to, for example, the German embassy in Ghana here, and then Rotary Club, and then some of the MasterCard Foundation has also expressed their interest in helping the community. We've actually had progress, but being in the limelight also requires a huge responsibility and a huge production, which we had a customer reaching out to us recently by asking if we could provide him 50 tons of shea butter every week. But our capability at the moment is only 60 kilograms. So with this order, the 50 tons of shea butter will actually, I believe, if we are able to meet this requirement, will mean 1,000 times more of what these women are earning, and that will bring a tremendous change to the life of these women and to the community at large.
It's incredible, isn't it? I mean, the context to that for those on the call today is shea butter comes from a nut from a tree. You can't just increase production. It's a finite supply of shea butter, and the finest trees, the most productive trees, are in the fields with these ladies. So the world needs shea butter. They need it from these ladies. Now they're in the formal economy. the demand for their products is 1,000-fold more than they can currently supply. That's right, Helena, right? That's staggering.
And dealing with all this, we still try to make sure the women stay work in a health and safety way. But unfortunately, we lost one of the girls as a result of a snake bite 12 days ago, which I believe if we had a better working condition or the correct environment for this, it could have been prevented.
Yeah, there's no way we can make the current working environment completely safe. We need the help of the people on the call to build proper buildings and give proper machinery to take people away from harm. So with that in mind, Helena, the last question, please, is what do you need right now? People are sitting watching this and just thinking, what can we do to help? What would it be if you had a wish list? What could people do right now?
First of all, what we need is a shelter for both shea butter workers and the weavers. When we are able to provide them with a shelter, that means they can come together, whether it's raining or Ghana is really hot, and for them to always sit under the trees on those rocks is really not healthy. So when we get a shelter for these women, I think it will actually help. And machineries, for example, it will help us scale up to the other. In order to meet up the 50 tons that I've mentioned, from 60 kilograms, we will need machineries to be able to scale up to all that. And also we will need water for the community. We need water for the community. As it is, shea butter deals with a lot of water, and the entire community only have one borehole, which is not even working properly at the moment. We will need water and training. We will need IOSH to actually train us when we get all these machineries. They'll put us through the training on how to use it and how to actually work with this and still stay in a health and safety way. We will also need the exposure that comes with social media marketing. We will need the expertise in this, and then how to also educate these women on their finances and many more.
Thank you. But exciting times, Helena. It's great to see that the world has seen the product and wants it desperately. All we want to do is shift the position in the value chain, so more of the benefits of producing this beautiful material and the shea butter sticks with the ladies that deserve it. So thank you, Helena. We're going to take you now across to East Africa, to another Commonwealth country with a great progressive government focusing very much on moving people into the formal economy and by doing so improving their working conditions. In this case, though, we're going to show two examples of where we work with existing projects of our partners rather than in Ghana, where we initiated them and we're looking for other partners to join us. Here in Kenya, we joined two existing projects that are led by our second superhero today, Nana Wanjau, and we'll hear more from Nana later on today. So the first one takes us to the western side of Kenya, to the beautiful Rift Valley. It's one of the most picturesque places in the world. But again, where hard to reach communities, such as the ladies we'll see in the next film, are being impoverished and making unbelievable decisions every day just to put food on the table. So sit back and enjoy the first documentary, please, where we focus on the fishmonger women of Lake Victoria. Thank you.
These women work from 4 a.m. in the morning to late evening. They are put in a position whereby they have to choose overriding any other circumstance around them, including exposing themselves and their children to this kind of hazards in order to earn a living. My name is Nanis Kanana. I'm an occupational health and safety and sustainability professional. And on this project, I'm the lead for the risk assessment for fishermonger women in Kisumu. By 6 a.m., they have traveled about 2 hours to be at the lake by 6 a.m. When they get to the lake, they have to wait for the fishermen to come back with the fish. When the fishermen arrive, the women have to go inside the boat to select the fish that they would like. From there, we would observe the women riding on the boda to go back to the market.
Unaona hizi cobwebs hizi mingi hivi inaweza kuwa pia source of fire.
The important first thing to do is to understand how people are working, because understanding the tasks enables you to be able to identify the hazards that they might be exposed to.
There are glaring gaps, and it's unfortunate to hear that these gaps have already led to incidents.
So once you are done, do you have like a specific place where you store? It was quite interesting to see the women trying to manage with what they have. Because from what I'm observing, this is a work area.
Yeah.
So is there a specific place where once you're done, you can be able to take and maybe store?
Once it is done, it is not supposed to be here.
There are so many concerns around the kind of work they are doing.
When they're processing the fish and scraping off the scales and filleting them, then they're dealing with very sharp knives. These fish have got very sharp fins, so you can get puncture wounds in the hand.
We were able to interact with one lady who was doing the scaling, and we were actually keen to know, do the scales get into the eyes?
Kati hizi scales zimewaingia kwa macho yako ukitengeneza?
Zinaingia kwa macho.
Alafu ukafanya nini?
Tunaweka tu maji. I was really been able to talk to a few women involved in that particular process, and some of them confessed to already been having high eyesight problems.
Kutoka asubuhi hadi saa ngapi?
Hadi jioni.
Kuna wakati wewe uingiangi ama unaingia kila siku Monday to Sunday? Monday to Sunday.
So wewe ile wakati unachukua a break, yani tuseme unaacha unapumzika ama maybe kula lunch?
Maybe tunaenda kula lunch.
Dakika ngapi?
Tukikaa sana 15 minutes.
15 minutes.
When they're frying, they're using deep fat fryers. So they're dealing with hot oil. They often get burns and splashes. So there's quite a lot there in terms of the potential for harm in what they do.
Yeah, you can feel the heat is intense.
Yeah.
By just, we are about a meter away. It's quite intense. So I can just imagine the person who has to be exposed to that the whole day. How many hours are you here?
We normally come in the morning at 7 and we leave at 7. So that is 12 hours.
Is there anyone else, other conditions you've had the ladies complain about?
The ladies are normally complaining about the chest. The chest, I think, because of the smoke. And some of us here even use some toxic method to light fires. They use nylon bags, they use
Some of the methods they use to light the fires exposes them to respiratory illness because we have the fumes, we have the smokes, and actually when they inhale that smoke, it can have long-term effects on their lungs. When we went to the frying point, actually there was a lady who had issues with the eyes because of the exposure to the heat.
Problem in my eyes. You see the eyes? Her eyes here, you see she has some white.
So when you feel very sickly, what do you do? Which hospital do you go to?
I don't have the money.
Because of financial limitations, we've not been able to really access proper medical assistance. Most of them are not able to afford any medical insurance.
There's a lady who was carrying her oil from the fire and she fell down with the oil. So she got burnt, her face, her body, She's still recovering.
How long was that?
It's almost now it's 4 months.
If something happens at work, suddenly that person economically is not generating an income for their family. They may not be able to get healthcare. So there's a real knock-on effect. So maybe suddenly the kids have to get taken out of what education they may be in. And of course, there's no right necessarily to have that education. And you end up in this sort of downward spiral, which actually, if the accident hadn't happened at work in the first place and it was preventable, that's the key thing, it was preventable. You can stop many of the sort of social consequences and economic consequences that come of that accident.
The GCOs are open, there are no barriers whatsoever. And also we have the children in that particular place. The risk of really this kid falling inside the fire or even inside the hot oil are really high. As an occupational health and safety professional, I know it's possible for us to empower these women and to put controls in place to make sure that they go to work every day and go back home safe.
A risk assessment, a report, never made anybody any safer because it's a piece of paper. It can't make anybody any safer. But what it can do is it can engage people. It is a first step. But it's an important first step because it gives that baseline data in terms of where we are.
We are an occupational safety and health charity, and that's our remit, to keep people safe and healthy in work. We know that all workplace harm is preventable. We know how to fix it. We've just got to galvanise efforts.
There are very tangible aspects of what we do. You start to see human beings in that, so real people, real communities, families. The things that we are putting in place with those communities are going to make a massive difference. And what can be more motivating than knowing that you have protected life?
Here in Kenya, it was very easy to identify how we can support them in their existing projects. One of the subgroups that we collaborate with within the Commonwealth is the Commonwealth Business Women African. They do great work, and one of their existing projects was with the fishmonger women.
So good afternoon. Good afternoon. It is so good to be back in Kisumu with you ladies. My name is Lana Wanjau, Vice President, Commonwealth Business Women Africa. We have been working with the fishmongers for 2 years, and we started with training. I'm happy to see you, but I am very, very sad that when we arrived, the first thing we heard is that since we were last here, you've lost a colleague. Sometimes it makes us wonder, is what we are doing enough? I mean, we are here economically, socially empowering you, but if your health is failing, then what are we doing? 2 visits ago, when we visited, one of them had committed suicide. This last visit, they had buried one of their own who died from pneumonia. So you can imagine the mental anguish combined with the inability to earn sufficiently for you and your family. We cannot keep losing our sisters because of the environment we work in. So we are working very hard to bring in other partners to make sure that as we are working on the economic independence, but we are also working on your health.
When we started doing the training with these women, we realized, in fact, the first challenge that they brought up was the fact that they actually have issues with their eyes.
The aspect of health, safety, and wellness became clear to us very quickly that if we want the women to be economically sustainable and independent, we needed to take care of the health and safety issue.
We can't do it alone as the Commonwealth Business Women Africa. We need other partners and we need collaborators to be able to do it. And that's why in our interaction, it has been key to get to see where their issues or their problems are, and then see the partners that could be able to support in this.
The importance of the work IOSH is currently doing is really what is going to sustain the work we are trying to do in empowering the women economically.
What these reports have enabled us to do is to talk to our partners about how we might make differences locally, to get international organisations and investors engaged. But that's not the whole story. If we can help people to become safer and more productive at the same time, that has a knock-on effect within their society, because it means that there will be spare cash available within their environment, so they can not only feed and clothe their families, but they can perhaps pay for medical attention that they need, and most importantly, they can invest in the future of their countries.
So I'm going to show you something that I want it to interest and trigger your mind. This is fish leather. This is really, really wanted in the European and American fashion industries. So we can think of how we could also use that as another source of income for us, okay?
Fish leather is a byproduct of fish that can also be used, and this is another skill that can earn these women extra money.
They had no clue that there was anything called fish leather. Currently, as they prepare the fillet, the skin is thrown away as waste. So now they know they have to collect that skin, and we are going to train them the next phase on how to produce fish leather. We engage these women in a manner that they have choices. They have options. Choice and option give you power. The power for them to choose what they would like to do, how to do it, and that power will now enable them choose the lifestyles they want. It takes collaborative efforts from different stakeholders to holistically solve the problem of these women. The work you're doing under health and safety, and the work we are doing of business empowerment for these women, the two have to go hand in hand. We cannot take care of their health when they can't eat. And yet, we can't give them economic independence where they're able to eat, but they're always in hospital.
In occupational health and safety, we say that the life of a person is the first priority and the health of someone more than what they are earning. But at the same time, we need to create that balance. But when I look at the situation out across the process, there are several factors around that pose risks to the women. Whatever interventions that we want to put in place, we need to look at it sustainably.
We are on the same wavelength in the sense that for it to be sustainable, they must make money while healthy and safe.
If the women have more money, then they are able to even channel this money to even initiatives and mitigation measures that around the workplace that affect their health and safety.
This could not have been more timely because we are coming back to this community in 3 months' time. That is the point now I believe our partnership should start from. We should engage at that level. So part of this training should be around health and safety for the women. And you can now introduce the interventions at that point, right at the beginning.
And Nana, I totally agree with you, and I'm really excited to hear that. The women are getting money. We are building their capacity economically, and at the same time really taking on the aspects of occupational health and safety so that we're not developing the community disproportionately.
Absolutely. It's a deal. We are partners.
Fish leather. Who knew? I've got some here. It's incredible. Never knew it existed. But when you speak to people in the high-end fashion industry about our ability to work with Nana to source fish leather for the high-end fashion industry, their eyes widen up. Again, just as we talked about in Ghana, these ladies will sit in a value chain that's highly valuable. Hopefully through our work, the value will stick to them and not others in the value chain, because the power sits around these ladies at the moment. We'll talk about this more later in terms of how we're trying to address the power that Nana referred to there. So now we're going to take you the other side of Nairobi, towards the east of the city, for our final documentary, which focuses on some of the most incredible ladies I've ever had the privilege to meet, the bravest ladies ever, who struggle through day to day, and again, just like the fishmonger women, make the most difficult, unimaginable decisions every day just to put food on the table. So we're going to look now at the Maasai widows, whose current only way of surviving is to scavenge from the quarries that sit to the east of the capital city. So please, again, one more time, for the final time, sit back, and I hope you enjoy the following movie. Thank you.
Wengine unalemewa kabisa, shida kutoka, unafitu huku ni uchungu kila mahali, tembea hata ni shida. Nasikia tu fifu, lakini najilazimu tu kazi. I feel very weak, lakini najilazimu tu nikuja kazi. Ni vigumu sana. Mbaya, nasikia vibaya. Lakini sasa mimi ndio nitangangana sasa hapo, niona at least amepata. Majina yangu ni Kana Kirote, miaka 27. Hapa nimefanya miaka 7. Ni unakuja huku, unaifanya hii kazi na ni ngumu. Inakuumiza mwili. At long last unarudi nyumbani bila kitu. Labda kwa nyumba hakuna kitu, unalala njaa. Tunataka tu unawapea maji. Sasa utafanya nini na hakuna kitu? Na kwenye umeenda kazi hujapata. Unawapea tu maji, unachemshia tu maji unapea.
I initially went into Kajiado to build homes for widows. Then I learned that these widows, they were engaged in manual labor in the quarries.
These people are scrambling up what is effectively a slag heap. It's the waste heap from the main quarry face.
These people are working, bending down in terrible posture positions, breathing in the dust from those rocks all day, every day.
Digging with bare hands into the sand to get the rock. Some of the areas where they're collecting this rock, I always fear that the walls of the sand will collapse on them.
They're stacking these bits into what they call gunny bags.
They carry these bags of rock on their backs.
50 kgs. 20 bob. Hata 10 siwezi. Labda nisaidiwe kujaziwa 10. Ninunulie kila siku, inaweza kaa hata wiki ikijabebwa, nakaa siku 2.
On a good day, they can earn £1.20. That is less than the price of a bag of flour that would last 3 days. So, how do they live? Particularly when you think that most of them aren't on their A game.
Na watoto. Sasa ninaona watoto wangu kuwazaa 2 na wenye hawa wadogo wangu nyuma sasa 2. Hata mama wangu anafanyanga hapa. Sasa sasa hajakuwa huku kwa wiki 2. Alikuwa mahali kama hapa sasa, kama hapo mahali watoto walikuwa wanapanda, akichuja hii mchanga, kitafuta hiyo kokoto. Juu aliangukia na hiyo mchanga ilikuwa na mawe kubwa kubwa ndani. Ikamwangukia kwa miguu. Sasa angeweza kukimbia, kuacha hiyo kunini. Sasa ikamwangukia kwa miguu. Akafunjika miguu sasa huko. Sasa mimi ndiye ananitegemea.
They have got themselves into a situation where they're so chronically injured that they can't work anymore. They can't afford medical care. They have to work every day to be paid at the end of the day so they can take food home to put on the table that evening.
There is no way they can become prosperous from the quarries.
It's not a question of getting them tools to dig the rock. We have to get them out.
The most powerful thing of the risk assessment that our wonderful volunteers conducted is a firm evidence base that there is no future in the quarry for these women.
There is a very real human angle to this, and very sadly, two of the individuals that we interviewed for this project are now no longer with us because of the dangers that they faced on a daily basis. It is certainly a situation which cannot be made safe.
By quantifying why, we hope to be able to galvanise the capital and the investment to get those people back into proper ways of employment as fast as we can.
When Commonwealth Businesswomen Africa and IOSH show up at the quarries and speak to these women and start looking for solutions for these women, they know they are going to get out. Somebody has seen them, and to be seen is very, very powerful. A few times I've gone to visit them, and I've visited them in their homes, especially the ones that we have been told they are sick. Asante. Shikamo mama, habari yako? Oh, tumekuja kukupa pole. Pole sana, tunasikia umeugua muda mrefu.
Mwaka mmoja na nusu. Ukiwa ufanyi kazi
na
mambo yananyamaza. Na shida zinakuwa, madeni yanakuwa mengi. Kila kitu mnataka nitafanya. Maana shida ni nini? Si ni ugonjwa. Na nikipona sitakuwa amani kwa mboma yangu. Na sita strangu. Watoto wa secondary ndio hao walikuwa wawili. Huyu akamaliza last year na akabakisha ndani ya 64. Niko na msichana ako form 4. Anafanya mwaka. Kwanza ako na balansi nyingi juu wakati sikuwa mgonjwa nilikuwa nasaidiana na yeye. Ako na 75 hapo. Hata nimekuwa nikienda hospitali na kila wakati ni lazima ninunue dawa either za 100. Lakini nikienda sasa nikidunga shindano nipewe dawa ninachukua 1,500 ama 2,250. Sasa ile pesa nimetumia ni 26,000. Sasa nilikuwa nasema kama singegonjeka hata hiyo ingeenda kwa msichana. Na singekuwa na deni kubwa hivyo. Na watoto wangu wananihitaji. Kuna siku walililia hapa, wakalia machozi. Nilikuwa nimefika mwisho.
Ulikuwa umefika mwisho?
Mwisho. Kuna kipindi kilifika the last minute. Mpaka nikaambia mume wangu, tunza watoto wangu. Maana ninasikia mali nimefika. The last minute.
Na ugonjwa umetoka kwa kufanya kazi gani?
Sasa ikafika mahali nikawa ninauma na kifua. Kwenda hospitalini kupimwa nikaambiwa ni hiyo fumbi. Nikaambiwa niko na asima.
Lakini usipopata kazi nyingine kufanya, utarudi huko kwa mawe?
Hata jana nilikuwa sitakuficha.
Hata jana. Na hii ugonjwa ulikuwa?
Nilikuwa mgonjwa, saa hii nimepona. nilikuwa mgonjwa, siamki kwa hii kitanda.
Kwa sababu kama hizi unatengenezea nini hizi?
Natengenezea tu nini za kuvaa.
Za kuvaa kwa mkono? Ukiacha kazi ya kwari, unaweza ushone hizi. Kaa kuna mtu anataka kuzinunua kwa wingi, unaweza?
Naweza kama nikionyeshwa. Najua mimi sijazoea. Na nimejifundisha kazi ya kujifanyia kama hiyo. Inaonekana ni ngumu, lakini mimi napenda. Hata napenda mambo ya shamba.
Nadhani tukuache upumzike sasa. Tutakusaidia ndio usirudi huko mama.
Amen.
Nilikuwa nimefika grade 4, darasa la form 4. Sasa hapo ndio familia wako wana uwezo. Nikafikisha hapo masomo yangu. Nilikuwa nataka kusomea udaktari, nursing. Sasa singeweza kwa sababu ya mtu akunisupport. Alafu sasa ndio mimi ndio mkubwa kwa familia. Sasa ningeweza kupata tu mtu mwenye atanisaidia, ningeweza achieve my goal. Labda niweza kufanya shanga nikifundishwa, juu sasa sijui kufanya. Maana biashara yote nikipata nafanya. Na hakika kwa sababu sitakuja tena hapa juu nitakuwa nimepata riziki yangu ya siku.
We are at the point now of saying what else can these women do that will get them out of the quarry and still get them engaged in an economic activity that will bring for them sustainable income. That the Maasai community, traditionally they are beaders. They weave together these beautiful beads onto their clothing, into accessories like shoes and belts and necklaces. So what they're able to produce is minimal and it's for the local markets. The quality is very, very low. We want to scale that skill so that we get them new markets and they produce products that not only will be able to be sold nationally, but globally.
What's happening in Kenya is the government and the collectives, the Agriculture Association, all the different employer groups as well as the worker groups are really singing the same song, and it's wonderful. Everybody's on board, recognising that the prosperity of Kenya revolves around good jobs, great places to work, safe and healthy places to work. Has a real firm commitment from the government. For example, Department of Occupational Safety and Health Services, DOSH.
Our mandate is to ensure safety and health in all workplaces, both public and private. Safety and health is one of the most important fundamental pillars for societal stability. A healthy person is a productive person.
When we look at Africa particularly, one of the big challenges is the balance between the formal economy and the informal economy.
83% of our workers are in settings that are not really formal, and they are the most at risk.
If something bad happens in the informal economy, short term, the government, society as a whole doesn't pay out on that.
In attempting to formalize these informal sectors into loose associations, and then being able to put them in a way that we can begin to impart information and allow us to slowly be able to roll in safety and health programs in these settings. If we can get to the point where there is an acceptance and a creation of a self-perpetuated safety and health culture, it should trickle down to a sustainable society, a sustainable economy.
If we are successful in gaining the investment necessary to help these people to move back to their original trades and professions, then we are creating opportunity for them to build their business, to grow their business, to improve their skills, to manufacture goods that will be more attractive with a higher value to earn more and therefore grow their economy and look after themselves and their families better.
Guess what people are getting for Christmas? It's beautiful. The produce from the Maasai women. But it's so moving. I mean, every time I leave them, and I was with Nana and her team there, and our local team of IOSH members on the ground only a few weeks ago, and you always get that feeling when you leave them and say goodbye that, you know, it is a goodbye. To see how Dorcas and some of the other ladies have deteriorated since October when this film was made is truly heartbreaking, and it doesn't matter how fast we run at the moment, we really need your help because we're not running fast enough. I'd like to bring in Nana now, again, our second superhero, to talk about her views as being closest to these two communities. And I want to say congratulations, Nana, for what you do. Before I introduce you, though, maybe it's the right moment to also thank Chris, the filmmaker, for the great work he done in capturing the flavour, the spirit of the four communities. Chris's company, video production company, is Lumiere. If anybody on the call wants to have Lumiere's contact details, highly recommend Chris and his team for doing great work. So thank you, Chris, for everything you've done. Nana, good morning again. I mean, Nana, really just to sort of follow up on the similar questions that we put to Helena. Firstly, you know, what was the impact when we turned up from the ladies and the wider communities to help you? And then probably most importantly, the second question, if I may, is tell us all the exciting progress that you've made since we filmed in October.
Thank you, Alan, and good afternoon, everybody. I'm speaking to you from Nairobi, Kenya. It still makes me sad when I see these documentaries, no matter how many times I see them, no matter how many times we meet the women, because you said something there very, very crucial. We are not running fast enough. We are not running fast enough. And my hope and prayer is that after this, we will be at an unprecedented speed to solve the challenges on the ground. One of the things that became very clear when we as Commonwealth Businesswomen Africa were working with these women was that we had a gap. And the gap caused a perpetual poverty cycle. No matter what we did or what we got the women or capacity building or got them small loans, they were in a perpetual poverty cycle. And we realized that the health and safety, or the lack of health and safety in the environment, was definitely something we could not ignore if we wanted our work to be sustainable. And initially, when we addressed this with the ladies in the both communities, what they thought was that we will go and do a medical camp and they will get examined and they'll be given some tablet and, you know, they'll go back to their workplace. But when we got talking with IOSH, Alan and the team, we wanted a more holistic solution to tackling the challenges on the ground if we're going to be sustainable. So when we brought in, of course, IOSH team led by Alan and started having the conversations around safety and health, it was an awe moment, not just, by the way, for the women, I confess, even for ourselves as a team of Commonwealth Businesswomen Africa. We didn't realize or hadn't really appreciated taking health and safety as a priority. So we were actually learning on the ground the few times that Alan and the team come and we go into the communities. We've been learning on the ground. But I'm very happy to say that it has become an adopted culture in Commonwealth Businesswomen Africa that whatever projects we are starting, we need to have a health and safety element as a priority before we start the implementation or part of the strategy of the implementation. So Alan, that is what, was happening on the ground the first time. You showed up and a few more times. But I'm very happy to report that a lot of progress has happened, despite the fact that I'm saying we are not moving fast enough, because unfortunately, you've heard that we've already lost a couple of these ladies since this documentary were done, both in the fishmonger community as well as the women working in the quarries. So let me look at also the positive. In Kisumu, as starting there, after the risk assessment was done, we started working on making sure that we prepare these ladies to be business owners so that they own the boats that go to sea and they can hire the young men to go fishing. This will eliminate the sexual harassment that comes at the shores when the women want to buy the fish from the men. That's one. But also, we had introduced them on the opportunity for fish leather. In our next trip, we are going to visit Kidri. Kidri, for those who may not know, let me just read out the full. This is the Kenya Institute. Look, I'll type it down for you there. It's an investigative trip just for us to be able to understand what it's going to take for them to learn how to produce the fish leather, because we've had so many inquiries on fish leather. Again, we discovered that they could make the fish flies, which there's also a market for. So we have been in conversation with both KCB and Equity Bank to see how we can roll this out with the women in the fishmonger industry. In Kajiado, it's been quite urgent because the risk assessment, this recommendation was that we remove the women from the quarries. There is no future there. So there was quite an urgency to get them out as soon as possible. One of the conversations we had with the women working in the quarries, who most of them are widows, what would you like to do if you had an alternative source of income, if you could earn somewhere else and get out of this quarry? What would you like to engage in? What's your skill set? What's your desire? And they said three things. They said they would like to go into farming. They would like to go into beadwork for those who knew how to do beadwork, but upscale their skill. And they also said they would like to go into sewing, to learn how to sew, because they had an opportunity to sew Maasai shukas with a tradition they wear a lot, Maasai fleece blankets, uniforms, and so on. So our role will be able to get them orders. And I'm so happy to say that we've already identified a 5-acre land where we are going to engage in regenerative farming. These women will work at the farm, they will eat at the farm, and they will earn from the farm for those who like farming. For those who want to do the beadwork and fish flies, we've already identified and secured the teachers that are going to engage them in these activities in the training. And most importantly and exciting, just a few weeks ago, when Alan visited us, we were able to deliver a set of sewing machines that they can use to start learning the skill of stitching. So we've made progress, but it's not enough. Another exciting thing I'd like to share with you is that while we were identifying these 5 acres of land for regenerative farming, and by the way, the soil samples have been tested, the environment has been examined. We have now a report on what can be grown in that environment, but most importantly, who the final off-takers will be, because we want to make sure whatever we grow, we have a market for it. While we were at that land, and this makes me very, very happy, one of the elders heard we were there and the work we've been doing with the women in the quarries, and he offered us a stretch of land that stretches 9 acres. As long as we want to do work around women and young people, that land is ours to do what is appropriate. This for me is very, very exciting because it's important that, yes, we are looking for partners to come on board and collaborators, but this community, they're not looking for charity. These communities, both of them, they are very hardworking women, as you can tell. They are willing to work, but also the community has come in to support the work we are already doing. And I am sure we'll be seeing a lot more of that. Our vision on this parcel of land that was donated to us is to create and design something we are calling a pit stop, because this land is at the Nairobi-Namanga Road, right on the road, very prime property and very busy stretch of the road, because there are lots of tourists that come from Nairobi, Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, going to Arusha and Mount Kilimanjaro. So that could be the must stop on that stretch of road. It means people will be able to stop there, have a cup of coffee, water, freshen up, ATM facilities, but also that's the front end. The back end is where the workshops will be that will continue to train and build capacity for women and young people. We've also talked about having an area where we can share the history of how this pit stop came by. Because remember, in the front office of this place, it's like a shop, a cafe. So you can even buy the products that these ladies are producing. But there should be a place where we can showcase where we came from with these ladies, where we found them, what are they doing right now? They are producing beautiful fabrics. They are weaving beautiful jewelry like this one I'm wearing. It's from Maasai land. And every time I travel, I never come back with these things. People just yank them from my neck because they are so beautiful. So they'll be producing products like this, and they'll be sold there as people, tourists pass to and from Nairobi and Mount Kilimanjaro. So we want to be able, when visitors come, to see this is where the women came from, this is where they are, they're exporting their products, and East meets West is what we've coined the products we received from Ghana. Ghana has exported their bags and the shea butter to Kenya, and the women in the Kajiado, the quarries, the bidders are going to accentuate those bags, add their beadwork, their artistry. Fish leather can be added onto that bag, adding value to the initial product. So what I foresee, Alan, is that this year's Christmas gifts, corporate gifts, our client gifts, our family gifts should come from the East meets West products, final products.
Thank you, Nana.
To you, Alan.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, East meets West, it's great. So we're going to be helping both Nana market the products in Kenya, and you must stop at the pit stop for sure. And the same thing in Ghana. The East meets West products will be sold and marketed locally there. I think to conclude, hopefully the 4 documentaries have given a flavour to everybody on the call, the challenges and the sense of urgency and the fact that we need to work together. I'm going to hand back to Ruth to now open the floor to questions and answers. But before I do, just a closing remark is that obviously the primary purpose of our work here is to help and change the lives of the 4 communities that we're focused on today. But equally, we realized last time I was there that actually they're changing our lives as well. Not just myself visiting the countries on behalf of IOSH, but all of us at IOSH have worked on these projects. It's bringing perspective and a sense of importance and what really, really is important about what we do. If we truly believe in a safe and healthy world of work, as we say, it's time to deal with that. So, to conclude on that, I hand back now to Ruth to take us through the next questions and answer session, please. Thank you.
Thanks, Alan, and thanks to everybody for that really great presentation. And it's really clear all the hard work that's gone into the project so far. So thanks to everybody who's been involved in getting us to the point that we're at now. So now we've got about 5 to 10 minutes for any questions. So if you have got any questions that you want to put forward to the panel, if you drop those into the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen, or pop your hand up, and we'll try and take some questions. We have got a couple already, so I'll get started with those while you pop your hands up or pop the questions in the Q&A. So the first one we've got here is around, probably one for you, Alan. What can IOSH do working with partners like trade unions and worker cooperatives to ensure that those at the top of the supply chains take their responsibilities for occupational safety and health seriously?
I think it's a great question. From many layers, you know, firstly, you're right, is where does the liability extend into, or the moral compass and the liability extend to in any supply chain? And what we can see in countries such as, take Kenya, seeing as we've just been talking about Kenya, but Ghana's the same, is that often global supply chains will look at the tier 1 suppliers, the big suppliers, but one of the reasons we chose agriculture and the textiles garment sector is that the fact of those supply chains fragment really quickly into micro businesses. And what we need to do is make sure that the same standards, good standards of work that we see in the tier 1 suppliers, where the global supply chains focus on, is transferred further down the supply chain into the early entrants, the micro suppliers. And it's one thing that's being talked about a lot across the world at the moment is the move towards a fragmentation of labour in the developed economies. The developing economies, there's almost like a desire to move in the other direction. You know, the workers we've seen in these communities, the workers do not currently or historically have a voice because of the fragmentation, because of the isolation that they face. By forming the cooperatives that we've done in Kenya and in Ghana is the first step towards them having a collective voice, a collective role in how they can control who they buy from, who they sell to collectively, just as we've done in the developed economy. Collectivism is power. Collectivism is the ability for these women to command a respected place in their supply chains. Now, both Ghana and in Kenya, the governments are fully behind this. I've literally just come back 2 weeks ago from working with Dr. Nyandusi and his wonderful team at DOSH at their conference, where the collective voice was heard by the local trade unions groups. We fully understand, as the governments do in these 2 countries, and this is why we've chosen them, that the tripartite approach of the government working equally with the employers and the trade unions, the worker representative groups, is a critical soup of ingredients that is only going to work if these people all work together, and they are. Kenya, where we've just come back from, is a great example, as is Ghana, of where we're working together. In fact, right now in Ghana, the ILO is sponsoring some training where we're training both government workers, employer groups, and worker representative groups to help bring a common understanding and a voice towards OSH. So it's super important, and it's something that's front of our minds.
Thanks, Alan. And there's a second question which probably leads on rather nicely from that, which is around if the measures to improve OSH lead to improvements in productivity, how can we ensure that the rewards are returned to the workers involved rather than resulting in fewer jobs?
Yeah, it's again a great question. And if we look if we look at it separately as a great example of this, we talk again collectively across the world of the advances in technology. But if you look at emerging Africa, technology is a real threat to jobs. Because as technology becomes more efficient and mechanization becomes smarter and cheaper, what it's doing is it's placing a cap on the value of human labor per day. And it's preventing people from earning more. So it's a really great question, a really, really important question that we need to address when we're thinking of the benefits of technology versus some of the risks of technology and mechanization and scale in emerging economies. What we're doing, though, here by forming cooperatives owned by the ladies in question means that the value and the benefits of the improvements in the sale of goods and so forth goes directly to them, because we know these women will spend that money really wisely. They'll spend it on making sure that good food gets on the table, making sure their kids stay in school, making sure, as we saw at the beginning of today with the documentary on those kids, making sure that the future of Africa is in safe hands because their kids get what they need to be able to prosper in the future.
Thanks, Alan. We talked about that link before, didn't we, between increased productivity, generating more income, and how that links to the health and safety aspects. So yeah, really interesting one. We have got a hand up, and I noticed we've also got a question in the chat from Arif. So I'll let Arif come in verbally and try and answer his question. Arif.
Hello, thank you. I hope you can hear me clearly while I'm speaking.
Yeah, we can hear you fine.
Okay, good. So, and I think very moving films, Alan and the team. And Arif Zaman, I sit on the board of the Commonwealth Business Women's Network. Very powerful films. I applaud IOSH for the work that you're doing in this area. We are also, as you, I sit on the board of the Commonwealth Business Women's Network. My question, Alan, is really about the future and where you go with this next. So my question is simply this: what can IOSH do in driving scalability and collaboration by working with organizations like the Commonwealth Business Women's Network? We're just for the sake of clarity, we're completely separate from CBW Africa, although they started originally as part of our community, but now they're separate and they're not part of the Commonwealth Business Women's Network. But you have the Commonwealth Business Women's Network, you have the Commonwealth Women's Network, you have Sir Optimus International. What makes these organizations unique is that, like IOSH, they are directly recognized by all Commonwealth governments, including in Kenya and Ghana and all other Commonwealth governments. That means two key things for IOSH. It means that gives IOSH access to a community of 50,000 women across 40 plus Commonwealth countries. But it also means you're working with organizations, Alan, that have an explicit mandate on gender, but also are officially recognized by Commonwealth governments. So what that means in practical terms, and you know this, but I'm going to reinforce the point, it means that when ministers meet, these organizations can be in the room. And other organizations that are not accredited, that are not official, do not have that benefit. And when you're in the room and you're speaking to ministers, then you can begin to drive the conversations around change. So my question is a bit of a call out to you in terms of the opportunity around collaboration, the opportunity to work with organizations with an explicit mandate, both on gender and across the Commonwealth. And in the case of some organizations, I know IOSH also is recognized by the UN, as is Sir Optimus. So then there are opportunities to make that link as well, which you also touched upon. So that's my call, Alan, and much my question. I'd be interested in your response. Thank you.
Thank you. Ruth, shall I take
by all means, Alan.
Well, I mean, Ruth, thank you for the question. And before I answer it, thank you, dear friend, for everything you've done and your network do for us. Our early days as an accredited Commonwealth recognised entity were accelerated in terms of our ability to influence because of you, and that will always remain something we're grateful for. And you're right, we've used 4 examples today of where we're working, but there are countless more. And we hope some of them, many of them are with you and the other accredited organisations, and we look forward to lobbying side by side with you and the other accredited organisations at the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting in Samoa later this year. We recognise at IOSH sure, we're the biggest player in our field, but we're still small. You know, there's no way even our 50,000 members can do what we need to do. We need to collaborate, and we welcome any conversation with you, or as we've done in the past, or any other Commonwealth body to help make the world a safe and healthy, well, you know, place. We don't care who does it. We just want it done.
Thanks, Alan. I'm going to have to draw it to a close there because I'm afraid we're out of time for the Q&A, but thank you ever so much for everybody who's put questions forward. And if you want to know any more about the projects, we do have a page on our website. So if you just search for IOSH in Action on our website, you'll find further information about the different projects we're involved in, and also how to get in touch with us if you want to follow up with any further conversations with any of the team off the back of today's session. So now I'm just going to hand over to Vanessa, who's going to give us some closing comments. Vanessa.
Thank you very much, Ruth, and to all our panelists today as well. As Lana said in one of the videos, to be seen is very, very powerful. The event today is part of our rollout to raise awareness of the communities and projects, and IOSH is showing these documentaries in many ways, from reports, communication to members, and at high-profile global events, as well as presenting to high-profile partners. Through galvanising the support from the partners, we're aiming to achieve the long-term goal of reducing workplace harm and increasing productivity, better connections and product value, higher potential of income, and therefore the increased likelihood of children in the communities to be staying in school, particularly teenage girls, and therefore break that cycle of early entry to workplace harm. Being able to show the circumstances of these communities, the work we are doing, and the impact it is having, we are hoping to influence our partners to continue to invest and ultimately make a difference for these communities. Together, IOSH, our partners, and in-territory representatives have a plan of action for each community based on the risk assessment recommended interventions, and will continue to work tirelessly to support the women, their families and communities to raise awareness among in-territory government officials, ministries and global partners to galvanise investment for the communities to improve their working conditions and ultimately alleviate the workplace harm to make sure they do go home every day safe and healthy. I hope you found it useful today to understand more about the work we are doing in Africa, and I hope that you take the opportunity to visit the IOSH in Action page, as mentioned by Ruth, to understand more about the communities we're working with, the progress we're making. And if you do have questions or want to know more, please reach out. I hope that this has provided some insight into how IOSH can truly deliver its charitable objectives to drive real improvement and change people's lives. Thank you so much and goodbye.